Hey, how you doing? Adam King here from Think Like a Fish. What we're going to do here is I'm going to do a series of videos answering questions that I've had around marketing, marketing in general, marketing funnels, automation, all of those sorts of things, in a hope and an attempt to to help some people out there to be able to answer those questions and ensure that you can move forward in whatever it is you're struggling with when it comes to your marketing. So the first question that I have had is it's how do I write copy and ensure that my design is specifically talking to my target market throughout my my marketing and my funnels. So first off, I think that's a fantastic question. Not just from the fact that it's a question about sort of marketing and all the rest of it, but that the person that asked this question is already considering their ideal target market, and they're not just looking at how they would speak to about have their marketing about their business, not necessarily about their customer. And our entire ethos here is you make it about the client or the customer, not about the business. And that sort of brings it to how I would look at approaching how you ensure that your copy and the design and everything that exists throughout your marketing and your funnels and all that sort of thing is very specific to an end client or a particular customer. And that's because this sort of thing doesn't happen by luck. It does happen by design, and you've got to be quite purposeful in your intent to do this, because really, if you think about it, your marketing has three core functions. It needs to connect, it needs to educate, and it needs to change. And it generally has to go in that order, because if you can't connect with somebody emotionally, they're not going to continue paying attention in order for you to be able to educate them about the their current reality, the problem that they are facing, what's possible for them, all that sort of thing. And they'll never be able to see what's possible or what potential outcome or result they could achieve by buying from you, using your product or your service. And if you can't show or educate people in how they can actually achieve that through what you provide, then they're never going to be able to potentially change their situation or their outcome. And if you can't show that through your copy and your marketing and your funnels and your design and your images and all that kind of thing, you will struggle to make sales. Because what I see is maybe it's a little bit controversial, but I think that what your copy is designed to do is not necessarily what you would think, because I don't think, and this is my personal sort of belief, when you write copy, it's not about making sales. It's not about trying to convince or persuade or coerce someone into buying or doing or thinking something that they don't need, want, or believe they need. Because I think that if you think about it in that way, you're setting yourself up for potential disappointment, because ultimately making a sale isn't in your control. The decision whether somebody buys or buys or not is, it lies with your prospect or with your client. You only have control over the process that brings them up to that point. So if you think about it, really, the purpose of your copy is to give people clarity on how it's possible to solve a problem that they already have, that they already know that they want to solve. Or achieve a result that they want to achieve, or realize a desire that they already have. It's your copy and everything in your marketing is there to make it easier for that person to buy, or even or even not to buy, or go with somebody else, because that's also what your copy is there to do. Within your copy, it's there to align your business, product, service values with what that prospect already has, and it's there to to really build trust with that person, that you're the best guide or the best solution to help them achieve what they ultimately want to achieve. Because really it's all about transformation. Somebody is at point A, they want to be at point B. The gap or the difference, that's the transformation, and that is where your product, your service come in. You need to within the copy and within the everything that you do, that is, if that is what you think about and you put at the core of what you say and how you show it, then sell the transformation. Don't sell the hole in the wall. Sell the hole in the wall, not the drill. Because ultimately it's more subtle. Because when your copy achieves all these objectives, what tends to happen when you're in front of the right person with the right type of message, then the sale becomes a natural byproduct of doing your process well. Because what you're really doing throughout your throughout the copy and your funnel is you're taking someone on a guided journey, and that is a guided journey of discovery. And somebody will only come to a realization or a discovery when they're ready. And the only real control that you have within the copy and everything within the funnel is to help them along that journey to the point where they're ready to go. And if they're not ready to buy at that point in time, you want to make sure you're at very least moving them towards closer towards that point where they can make that decision to buy. So said in another way, that guided journey or discovery is really about how you show that by buying your service, your product, whatever it is that you're selling, will provide a faster solution, a quicker solution, a less stressful solution, a less embarrassing solution, something that's more satisfying, more pleasant, more all of these kind of things. And what you're probably sort of getting in there, we're talking about sort of the emotional side of it, and that's what needs to sort of lead in your copy: the emotion, the storytelling, the kind of how you guide somebody through. That's not to say there isn't a right place for the logical conclusions that you need somebody to come to in order to actually make that decision and buy. But that is part of how you structure it. And the way I write copy, and I'm not a master copywriter. I know enough to be sort of dangerous. If I wanted to do a really sort of large piece of copy, I would generally get to a point where I can instruct somebody with skills that have been developed over a long time. But the way I do it is I actually start by talking to somebody, talking to someone who is either an existing client of a business, or if that business is looking to go into a new market or launch a new product, it's about knowing the profile of that client, identifying them, and then interviewing with a very specific set of questions. And for example, what we use here, we use a very specific questionnaire. We have a couple of different ones depending on if it's an existing client or a prospective. But at the core of it, it's all based around problem solution. So, for example, one of the questions we might ask is is a potential problem, or the problem that you're trying to solve, is it an issue for you? because you want to make sure that you're actually talking to someone that's dealing with this problem or has dealt with this problem. And then you want to ask questions like, why is this problem an issue for you? What do you feel the consequences would be of not solving the problem? What's the worst thing about it? When do you think, when you think about it, how does it make you feel? And, at every one of these questions, you're then sort of looking to probe more, okay, tell me more about that. Okay, what else? And you're really trying to draw it out of someone. And then you've got, other parts of this, which are, things like, understanding their perceived reality after solving the problem, because you want to understand what they think the solution could be or should be, or how they envisage things to be different for them afterwards. Things like, if you're able to solve the problem, what do you think it will take its place? What would your life, business, health, whatever it is you do, look like or be like after you've solved the problem? So, you can go through these sorts of questions and you ask them in a fairly systematic and methodical way. But at every point you're pulling things out, trying to dive deeper, because you're trying to pick up their language. You're trying to understand what it is that the person is thinking, because then you can structure your sales copy in a way that uses the majority of their words and their language. So you don't have to sit there and go, oh, crap, I've got to think of something to say, I've got to think of a headline, and I've got to think of... You actually pull it out of the people that you're trying to help and serve. So a couple of these are around, desired benefits, again, why it's important. And then you're looking at things like, what is the past experience they've had, trying to solve the problem or retrieve the result. And, what are the risk factors involved? And, how could the concerns you have be reduced? All those sorts of things. So that's what we do we record these. If possible, we do it via video. If we can do it face to face, that we'll always have a recorder, because we then want to transcribe it, because then that will make things easier to put things together. And then really 80% of your work is done, because you then just sort of look at a structure of how you're going to present your offer and create your copy. And this is if it's a sales page, but you can also use these throughout all of your marketing, or your email follow-ups, or your, bits and pieces. This will give you content for an entire campaign. The framework, if you were looking at it and just saying it's an offer or a sales page, you would start with whatever it is their biggest problem was at the top. You can, it can work very effectively. Do, like a quote from someone. I was struggling to do this for, years, or, it was only when my 4-year-old grabbed a big bit of my belly and laughed, that I realized that I had to do something about it. It's that kind of thing, because if you're trying to talk to, people that want to lose weight, maybe they're, mothers or whatever it is, that's the kind of thing that maybe they could, relate to. So, you start with the problem, and then you use the solution in the sort of subhead. You don't have to go into describe it; it's just the solution. So you have that, and then it's sort of looking at how you would then go and describe the consequences of that problem. So you're kind of leading with the problem, you're hinting at the solution, but not actually giving all the details. And then you are describing the consequences of the problem, both what they're experiencing now, and also, what would happen if they didn't solve this problem. Then you're looking to describe your solution in detail. You're wanting to sort of lead it with a benefit, how, and always relate it back to the person, how the benefits can help that person, how the benefits of that solution, really does help them for all of the things that they will have told you about within that interview. And then you're going to start looking at, once you've described your solution, you're going to start actually bringing up any objections that you've pulled out of that that interview that they may have had, because those are the questions you were asking, and you bring them up and you overcome them up front, because you want to make sure that you are not leaving anything to to uncertainty. And then what you will be looking at doing is how do you present how you have minimized the risks or reversed the risks if you're offering guarantees, those sorts of things. And then ultimately you just need to tell them what to do. You need to give them a very clear call to action, whether, if it's a sales page, buy now, if it's, purely an opt-in for some kind of, bait or lead magnet, then, that's something that you need to be very specific and tell them what to do. If you can put some urgency or some scarcity in it, that it's genuine, that also helps at this point, obviously, to move somebody to action. And that's really how you can look at creating copy throughout a funnel that very specifically talks to your ideal profile client. And you do it, it's no real revelation, I don't think it, you do it by actually talking to the people you want to help in the first place, understanding how they're thinking, understanding the internal struggles and what they want, and what their life looks like and what their struggle looks like, how it feels, all of that. And if you can then put it in to the copy that you write and throughout your funnel, then that will bring somebody in, and it will make them see that you understand them. You understand what it's like to be them, and you are the best person to help them in whatever it is that they currently want to solve. That's why I would always look at interviewing somebody, because use their words, rather than sort of sitting and staring at a blank sheet of paper and trying to come up with a fancy headline that may or may not work. Use their words, use the things that they say. They will do it a lot better than you, and you want to use their customer language. It's laced with emotion, it's frustration, and they're always going to be talking that there is a hope for a solution. And, there is, you have that solution, and you just need to tell them about it in their own words. So that's how I would sort of look at the copy. As for the actual design, the look of things, any kind of imagery that you might use, photos, illustrations, anything like that, needs to connect with the particular emotion that you are dealing with at the particular time. And also, rather than always, there is a place for product photos, for example, but I wouldn't make it the first thing they see. It needs to have an emotive connection, and it needs to show what the end result could look like. If you're potentially leading, and showing a problem, then maybe it's showing somebody dealing with that problem at that particular time. So that's how I would approach it. And if anybody would like a copy of the the questions that we use to interview, by all means, stick a comment down, and I'll be happy to send you one. So thanks very much. I hope you got something out of that. I hope it was useful, and back again soon. Bye now.